Welcome, everybody. This is part one of our first unit. Very first week, 2 weeks, we run HLTWHS001. This is our certificate 4 in youth work class. I am your trainer, Vicky Hanna. We're going to have 2 recordings that are coming out to you. This one, which is going to be a walk around the theory, some of our content, some of the knowledge evidence that we need around that. And part 2 is going to be a discussion about what does workplace health and safety really look like for us as workers when we're on the front line, when we're working with young people. And it's about the client's experience, the young person, yours as the worker, and your peers and colleagues, and the organisation, so that there's 3 of us in this space when we're looking at everything. So I just wanted to walk you through some of the theory, what to expect. I'll show you the assessments that you're going to do. So there's 2 assessments. One is task 1, which is a quiz. There's another one, task 2, which I'll walk you through. That gives you a couple of cases to have a look at. And task 3 does not happen until you're in the workplace. So when you do work placement, you'll actually go through and have a look at more of those hazards and controls. So in your portal, you will have resources, you will have these slides and any of the videos embedded into them. You will have instructions to be able to do your assessments around them as well. There are no role plays in this unit, which some people are very happy about because they're a little bit nerve-wracking. That lights, camera, action, let's go. However, that's your skills, and we need both the knowledge and the skills. But for this unit, for the 2 weeks that we do this, there are no role plays. But I'm definitely going to be encouraging discussion, and that's what our second recording will be tonight. We'll have an incident, we'll unpack it together collaboratively, we'll come back with our ideas around what do we do during, and then what do we do afterwards? How do we look after everybody after an incident around that workplace health and safety, including psychological safety, and I'll do more on that in week 2. But then what could we do that maybe could have prevented that? What would be our takeaway and our learnings as well? Where are our boundaries that sit inside of that? So we'll have a really good discussion in our second part tonight. But let's just walk our way through. So I would just like to start off just letting you know that the unit is HLTWHS001, and it's called Participate in Workplace Health and Safety. So when we join an organisation, we do orientation and workplace health and safety. So for many of us, we know, oh, okay, the hazards, and you put a sign up if there's a wet floor. But if you are looking at things like youth work, we end up looking at sharps, we look at nonviolent behaviour, we look at de-escalating situations. How are you in that space? What can you do, what you cannot do? We'll have a discussion about that with the group. But then also psychological safety. Under the legislation, it now sits under workplace health and safety in every state and territory. In Victoria, it is pending, but every other state and territory, psychological safety is now part of the legislation around the Workplace Health and Safety Act. Okay, so I want you to get familiar with this. So it's, if you see that someone is being bullied or harassed or discriminated against in the workplace, we can no more look away and from that and not write an incident any more than we could if we saw a slippery area and didn't put a hazard sign there. So we'll need to unpack what that psychological safety is, how to look after yourself, and then how to make sure that your colleagues are okay. A lot of our language in workplace health and safety in the sector is around having safe words and safe storytelling for our clients. But you need to make sure that if you hear all day, every day, some really complex, sometimes some really heartbreaking stories, you need to be okay to know that everything leaves an imprint. What do you do to look after yourself? your own care, self-care, and then how do we make sure that we don't end up wearing those stories that young people, because they'll offload on us and we don't carry it. So I'm going to bring in journal writing a fair bit in week 2, how to unpack that. But in our second one, we're also going to do a debrief, just softly, what went well, what could we do differently? And we'll bring that into part of our best practice, our standards when we're working in that space. But for a start, it's to do our acknowledgement to country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, Hayter Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respect to all First Nation people and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. And I extend that acknowledgement out to any of our learners who are in our classes or watching our recordings that at Hayter are definitely creating a space for you in our learner community. So I come to you from Tarraballan Bundaland, which is located in Queensland, often referred to as Bundaberg. What are the lands that you sit on and live in as well? These will be something that we will bring into our sessions, especially when we're doing some of our facilitator ones. And I want you to be able to just connect with your community. Some of our most vulnerable members of our community are First Nation and Torres Strait Island people, and we're heading into NAIDOC week. So I think it's really an important moment to reflect on that, our 65,000 year history of our First Nation people, where we live, work and study, and on lands that have never been ceded. A little bit of housekeeping. It may seem that health and safety is not an intense unit, but we don't know that. We don't know if there's a story that comes up for you or a story that might come up from something that someone else shares. So just go softly in this space. Know that I will give trigger warnings if I think it's a sensitive topic. And in our discussion, we are going to talk about self-harming behaviours and how do we manage in that space. So I just want you, if you find that you're checking in and you're having a bit of a flat day, that's probably not the time to watch those recordings because it will just take a little bit more from you rather than add value. So make sure that you've got a good sense of mind, just that you're fully present, do it in 20-minute bites. If you can't sit there and listen to me talk the whole time, speed me up and go on double speed and get through the bits that you think may or may not. This will come to you as a recording. I recommend that if you're new to Hayter, that you open up a folder on your device, you call it Certificate 4 in Youth Work and put the year in there, 2025 if you're just starting. And then every unit that you do, open up a subfolder and you'll get a learner's guide. Please download your learner's guide. Now, the reason why I say that to you is if you download it and you save it into your folder, your subfolder for that, every unit has its own learner's guide. And when it comes to answering the questions, you can open up your learner's guide and go into search and you can paste the question in there and it will take you to the exact spot that it's in your learner's guide. So it's a little toolbox tip I wanted to give you. We'll keep giving you more throughout our classes. So we welcome a little bit of housekeeping for you. Don't need emergency procedures because we're not face-to-face. But you know what? Sometimes conversations can be triggering, or it might be something that's just not sitting with you the way that you'd like to. Your emergency procedure is to go off camera if you want to. You absolutely can leave the classes at any time that you choose to. If there's anything that you're uncomfortable with at all, then you have the right to step out of that that class or step out of a breakout room or not go into a breakout room. It's adult training space. This is your space. Not everyone can come to every class because they have competing priorities. So we will record wherever we can and make sure that we bring that class to you, but we record it so that you've got it as a resource also for when you start studying. When you get your learner's guide, just go through it all and read it to become familiar with the language and the topic, and then go over and have a look. You might like to do your practice runs with your e-learning. They do not count towards your assessments. Where it's got assessments to do, that is where it counts. Now, you will get 3 attempts at everything, and you will get feedback. There is no penalty whatsoever, however many times you attempt. And if you need more than 3, happily, we will open up more for you. But we won't just open up more and see you struggle. If we're giving you feedback and that's just not getting any traction with you, we want to be able to guide you rather than tell you what you have got wrong. We would rather point you in the direction of how to get that right. So give it an attempt, give it a few goes and see where you are. If the feedback is not enough to correct it, then please let your learner support officers know. If they can help you, they will. If it's something that they think sits with the trainer, then they'll send it back down to me and I'll move it amongst the team if I need to. So your course outline and structure is classes start at 6, they finish at 9. We have sector discussions. I bring the workplace into you as a worker. We all come into this space to work. I make it assessment relevant, and I'm not a fan of chalk and talk. So you get these slides. You do not need me to turn the slides and read everything on the page for yourself. But this is for you to go through. But I still like to do a summary. So for this particular unit, we're in week 1. We'll have next week, and that will be the end of this unit, and we'll move on to a new unit. So I encourage you in Cert 4 to be doing between 7 and 10 hours per week. Classes 3 of that. Reading your learner's guide could be another 2 of that, and then attempting your e-learning or not even touching them at all. You don't need to. Jump in and have a go at your assessments. Just you can start it and hit save and go back to your work. And if you submit it, then it'll get marked. If you submit it accidentally, oops, it'll just say, hey, looks like you missed some things. That's fine. No drama whatsoever. It'll just come back to you, try again. Okay, so don't worry about any of that. But your learner support officers are amazing. I just want to say, they're a fantastic team. They start at Hader time, 10 a.m., and they are there until 7 p.m. So they're there just to make sure that you can still get into classes. If your link isn't working or something doesn't flow, email them at lso@haderinstitute.edu.au. And of course, my email is Vicky, VIKI, @haderinstitute.edu.au. Okay, so that's our course outline and our structure. 2 weeks, 2 assessments. Try and get an assessment done if you can. Task 1 is a quiz. Some of it's multiple choice. Some of it is automatically marked, but most things have assessors. Your submissions go into a wait list. We go to the top of the list, the ones that have been sitting there the longest. We aim for 48 hours turnaround time for you. Of course, the weekend changes that. But if you think that there's been a delay or you're not quite sure what's happening, please reach out to the learner support officers and let them know that you're waiting for your assessment to be marked. There could be a reason why it's just not getting attended to, and I'm not quite sure what that is. But if you let us know, we'll definitely go in and have a look for you. And that's my role. So my role is, yes, I am your trainer, but I'm also the program manager for all the trainers at HADA. So we offer Certificate 4 in youth work and Diploma in youth work. We offer Cert 4 in community services and Diploma of community services, and I do teach that as well. And I teach the Diploma of youth work, and then of course I teach you guys in our Cert 4. in youth work. But we also have Cert 4 AOD and Diploma in AOD, Cert 4 in mental health and Diploma in mental health. The great thing about Cert 4 in youth work is that you get a bit of AOD, a bit of mental health, a bit of housing and homelessness, a bit of domestic family violence, a bit around advocacy, and a bit around legal and ethical frameworks and trauma-informed care. All of that comes to you because all of those things impact our target group that we work with. So I work as a sector worker outside of HADA, like all of the HADA trainers, and that's really important. It's a very high standard that HADA have for you. Every single trainer brings something into that space. We're all very different. We all have roles outside of HADA, and that's what means that is current or sector current and sector relevant. We are preparing you to go out in a sector. So your requirements and submission dates, there is no deadline for your submissions. I will strongly recommend that you do not leave your role plays. Do not park them, because if you bank them and you park them, you have got about 25 hours worth of role plays to do. And when you do go to it, no one can help you. There may not be clients around anymore or peers from class. You may struggle, and every role play is related to the theory. So if you do the theory, it won't be marked because the skills sit beside that theory. Some bits might be able to be marked, but only in part. But if you haven't done your role play, you will never finish that assessment. And if it's 50% through to go to work placement, if you've left the role play, you're not completed, so it will never show as 50% through. So I strongly encourage you not to leave the role plays because you have not finished any assessments at all. If you have left the role play, you have both knowledge evidence that you must provide and skills evidence. So in some of them, we do offer role plays in classes, but if we have a big class and you do the math on it, people book ahead and say, I would like to do my role play in class. That's great. We can do that for you if there's those spots are open. Otherwise, you can come to me and I'll run a smaller group for you, and I'll give you those availability of times. Any that it says you don't need an assessor there, then do that with your peers from class. If you don't make it to class, then we have an app called Discord, and there's a channel in there for youth work, and other people will be looking for people to play the client for each other. So they are the worker and you be the client for them, and then they will be the client for you and you be the worker. And there's in that Discord app some incredible short sources, little videos, do's and don'ts. A couple of the trainers have jumped in there to do that, and I've got some as well that I've dropped in there. There's one there where myself and another trainer, actually I think there's two, and a really old one, and then one more recently where another trainer and I play out just one scenario out of that, and it gives you an idea. And we even have, here's a part 2 if you miss something. Part 2s are 5 minutes. If it does have a role play, if it says no greater than 10 minutes, know that it's no less than 10 minutes either. So 10 minutes is the magic number. So if you send something in and it's 3 minutes, it won't be sufficient. We don't do 3-minute sessions with the client around something that's really deep or complex, especially when it's a person that's highly distressed. We expect that you're going to have a session with the client, you're going to simulate that, you'll have prepared and you'll have planned for that. So watch other people do that in classes if you don't want to do that yourself, but just lean into it. You're going to do lots of them. You must do lots of them to receive your qualification. So, you know, you're going to be talking to clients. This is you demonstrating yourself talking to clients. So we'll do those in classes wherever we can. And I can fit in quite a few, but of course we are limited based on our time. And this is a big class as well. So please reach out if that's something that you would like to do. Communication is key in this space. So when you come to class and say, can I do my role play? It's quite likely they have already been booked out. So, but if you email and you book it in, can I please do my role play in class? A time will be made available for you, provided we have those slots still open. So task 1 is Q&A, it's a quiz. And then of course, task 2 is around your project, gives you scenarios as well. So we're going to do an icebreaker, which is when we first start classes, I like to do a check-in number, how you're traveling. We don't record those because I think that's a very personal share, and coming into classes, it's private and confidential. We don't discuss what we do outside of classes. Of course, you might be sharing with someone about your studies. If they inquire, by all means say, oh, we had someone in class and they raised this. We just don't mention their name any more than we would mention a client's name. We de-identify it. But by all means, your peers are there to support you and you support them. So our legal rights and responsibilities is around safety. Yes, it is around hazards and it is around risks. Your rights and your responsibilities, and those two things go together. So if you read the policies and procedures, then you're automatically responsible. You said, I've read them and I understood them and I signed it. Now I'm at work. So we will do a little bit of a breakout room. That'll be our verbal. What does that mean for us? Watching a day in the life of an employer. There's an embedded video for you. The employer has 2 responsibilities to do. Different way to be able to say it, but the 2 responsibilities are they must create a safe environment for you to work in, and they must give you the resources to do that. It's an employer's fundamental responsibility around workplace health and safety. You will make sure that you will act safely in workplaces and you will use those resources that the employer provides. So when we break it down like that, it's pretty simple. But humans aren't simple. Humans are complex. And so the simple can end up being fairly complicated. But workplace health and safety, do not think for a moment that the employer is responsible. You can be 75% responsible if you did the policies and procedures and you had the training and you still did something outside the guidelines. So that's all about intention. So employee duties and rights. Follow your directions that are safe to do so. Do not follow unsafe directions. Only use the equipment that you're trained to use and use correctly. Use PPE, so your protective clothing, and participate in consultation. Protective clothing for us is often gloves, depending on the first aid that you have, that you get. Sometimes the employer will do that, but mostly we do that ourselves. So I can administer medication and anaphylactic shock as well. So things like the EpiPen, that's my first aid. And mental health first aid, of course. These are extra on top of. This isn't part of your Cert 4, but if these things come your way and your employer offers it to you, I would encourage you to do those things. Some will actually say we expect that of you, so that might be another investment, but oftentimes not. It's really about your Cert 4 or progressing towards completing your Cert 4 will be enough to open those entry-level opportunities for you. Or if you're already working in the sector, it may give you a sideways over to work with a target group that you're really motivated to work with. So make sure that you're communicating effectively in the workplace and you're filling in the forms when something happens, and to stop work if it is unsafe for you to continue. We have signs which we do recognise in workplace health and safety. So all of those ones, a lot of these we actually recognise. I like it because it crosses all cultures. A picture can definitely communicate, and we're used to the black and yellow, which is kind of like the hazard tape and things like that. But high-vis now in clothing is just like common. Whereas it used to hardly ever be seen. And if it was only in the workplace. Now you'll see people, you know, who will wear high vis, and they wear high vis if they're walking early in the morning, at dawn, or late at dusk, to make sure that they're visible. So workplace health and safety is not just at work, it actually crosses over every area, especially for youth workers, because we don't always work in an office. We will often be out and about or doing programs, a lot of things to engage young people in positive contact, professional and personal development programs. So we look at physical equipment and substances that we use, like chemicals and things like that as well. We work with a lot of gloves and hazards. So we have a sharps container just about everywhere we are. Work tasks and how they are performed, and how do we design and manage. If something's not flowing, we have a responsibility to send that up. We will work with manual tasks, what the gravity of something is, the psychosocial, what electricity means, and machinery and equipment, and the types of hazards and examples that there are. So this is actually pretty important, this screen here, because it'll tell you what type of hazard and example. It's there because it's likely part of your questions. So you get this resource to keep. Some more. So our brainstorming is taking us into the incident, into our breakout rooms. We talk about the risk, the likelihood of that, how severe it was, and could we have prevented that? Yeah, I could prevent being eaten by a shark by never going in the ocean. I think I can definitely minimize that harm. So how likely is that? 0. I will not go where the sharks are. There you go. Problem solved. How severe is the injury likely to be? If we're talking sharks, I'd say pretty severe. So we will need to determine the likelihood. The program that I use in my workplace is called RiskMan, which is risk management. And I might put something in, the language automatically puts it on green, amber, or red. And at certain levels, depending on the language that I enter in, it's a system that's intuitive, it will automatically flag it to line managers or above. So everything will come up to your supervisor. Some things get handled on a day-to-day basis, and it gives you the solution, what you're required to do. And also in ours, it's set up which policy and procedure will tell you we need to apply. So it's a really useful tool. So we work in language like this. It's rare that it would happen, unlikely, possible, very likely, or certain to occur. One of the incidents that we talk about in our part 2 will be around the likelihood of something happening, and then how could we contain that as well. How often, how long, what are the controls, what are the changes we need to make in our organisation, in our working environment, what actions and behaviours do we need to see as early indicators? Trust your gut. That's not just intuition, that's experience. If you feel it in your gut and you go, something feels a little off, trust that, because you're going to use a lot of that in this sector. And what are the differences between individuals? What does it mean for one as opposed to another? Determining how severe something is really around, could it cause death or serious injury or illness, or only minor injuries requiring first aid? What factors could influence the severity of harm that occurs? Behaviours of concern can escalate. If we escalate with that young person, our goal is always to return things to a calm state of mind. And is the harm immediate, or is it going to build up over a period of time and be cumulative? So your legal rights and responsibilities, we will talk about what we can do, maybe what we cannot do as well, and what are some of the hazards and the risks that sit around us in the workplace as well. So let me just stop sharing that for a moment. Here you can see the Learner Support Officer's email. I wanted to just share that with you so that you know, in your first instance, who to go to. And then, of course, they will feed that information down. They are amazing. They have your resources in front of them. They are great to be able to guide you as well if you need that. So please rely on them in the first instance. Then, of course, you can directly contact your trainer. I'm happy to do that. If I can, just give me that 48 hours turnaround to be able to assist you. But I also wanted to share with you now just one of the assessment tasks. Can you bring that up, Alice? So this is, of course, my porthole. It may look slightly different to yours, but with this one here, you can see up the top, I think yours is green. HLTWHS001, that is the unit code. Some people call them modules. That's okay. We know what you're talking about. But then inside each of them, it has tasks. This one, it's T2 of 3, which means T task 2 of 3 tasks. Now there's task 1 is a quiz. Task 2 is this one here. Task 3 happens in the workplace. And you can see that this has been designed for both youth work and for mental health. So that's why we bring psychological safety in this space so strongly for you. But the overview of your second task, the quiz one, is just multiple choice and short answers, read your learner's guide. That's where you're going to get a bit of a flow for it. If you do your e-learnings, then you'll probably have some language and get a feel for that. And then when you're ready, you can jump over to the actual assessment. You can skip them all together if you want to. But just know that if you don't get that, the first attempt, you'll get a try again and a try again. And once we've hit that 3, then the learner support officers let them know and they'll try and guide you. And if they can't, then they will ask me to open up more attempts for you. And I'm happy to do that. So you'll be asked to read each case study. So this is the case studies over here. There's case study 1 and case study 2. So you've got to read over both of those and complete an incident report. In case study 1, the student, you will need to complete an incident report. What do students need in order to complete this assessment? You'll need to go to First Access, the Workplace Health and Safety Policies and Procedures, and an incident report form also with First Access. That's your simulated workplace environment. How do you get there? Just wait a moment and I'll show you. So you complete this in your own time and your trainer will give you a due date. When you're meant to finish your qualification is when it's due. There is no set time, absolutely no penalty. But Cert 4 is 12 months. That's reasonable. You can ask for extensions, but in that 12 months, you also have 120 hours of work placement plus extra assessments there. So I encourage you each week do a task. This would be a task that you would be doing by week 2 and having that wrapped up, hopefully ready to be starting a new unit. So complete the incident report, answer the questions for the case studies in both case study 1 and 2, and the instructions, read through the case studies and answer all the questions. So let's have a look at the case study. Here it says, case study number 1. You had an accident at work today. You had to be taken to the hospital and it was found that you had broken your foot. You were walking down the corridor from the storeroom with the box of paper, the ones that have 5 packets of paper in them. On top of the box of paper, you were balancing a stapler, box of pens, and a hole punch. One of your colleagues Mel is her name, darted out front of the kitchen because she could hear her mobile ringing at her desk, and she was expecting an urgent call about a referral for one of her clients, and you were focusing on trying to balance the items on top of the boxes and didn't see Mel. Mel didn't check the corridor. She rushed out the kitchen and knocked straight into you. This made you stumble into the wall, and the items on top of the box slid off and hit the ground. You were unbalanced, heavy load, you slipped and dropped the box, which hit your foot. The stapler bounced and hit Mel's leg, but she wasn't harmed. And the pain was terrible. Mel apologized. It was absolutely an accident. But you told her it was your fault because you should have been looking where you were going. You'll need to unpack this. It'll ask you questions. Was it anyone's fault? Was it an accident? Could it have been prevented? What are you going to do after this? And yes, you will fill in an incident report, which will be based on a statement of facts. So you'll complete the incident report, which is in your porthole with first access, and your supervisor would advise you to do that. If you click on that link, that will give you the incident report. It'll bring up a template. Save that document into your folder that you've now set up brand new. You've got your folder for Cert for Youth Work, and you've got a subfolder for HLTWHS001. That'll go into there. Need that. I'm going to have a look at it, and I know that I'm going to have to fill that incident report in based on case study number 1. You're going to do another incident report for case study number 2. So here you'll be asked with developing a procedure of moving items safely from the storeroom around the office. Your supervisor would like you to make a list of things that employees need to be careful of when doing this. Note that the trolley has now arrived and is located in the storeroom. Well, that would have been helpful instead of trying to balance all that paper and everything like that. So here it will ask you certain things, but those answers, not exact, but your learnings from your learner guide will help you fill those answers in. So case study number 2, here we have a security protocol in your workplace, and they're very strict. The front doors are automated and automatically locked at 9 a.m. and locked at unlocked at 9 a.m. and locked at 5:30 p.m. Staff can access the building out of hours by swiping their access card. The building is alarmed, but all staff have their own code and can disable the alarm on entry. So that lets people know how to get in and out, but it also lets the organisation know who went in and out and when, especially if there is an incident. There's some good controls and measures over that. You will need to go through this one. You'll need to read that. And you'll need to answer these questions. Explain the responsibility of the supervisor and the office manager for health and safety in the service. Do you think the supervisor and office manager have met their duty of care obligations? Look, really, this is about a door that isn't working. That's why they're talking about it. Automatically opens at a time and closes and locks at a certain time. But could that have been prevented? Were there indicators earlier to stop it from becoming a bigger issue? And then also, what could you do differently? Make your suggestions. What you're learning about will help you be able to answer these. What's a good response in here? Maybe a sentence or two. Definitely a paragraph is about 150 words, but you don't need to have that many with these. Usually we give you a bit of a guide around that. So this box here will expand for you, but these are brief answers. Please dot point or bullet point if you think that you want to just break it down in steps. Steps are really good because they're very instructional, very helpful for workplace health and safety as well. And then the final question is, what do you think the supervisor should have done when the door malfunction was first identified? So That's that particular task, your task 2 for that. So relatively easy. And this is the end of part 1, but we are going straight into part 2. So there's a second recording. I want you to watch that. We're going to talk about a hypothetical incident. We're going to discuss that in smaller groups, and then we're going to bring those findings back and discuss that. The discussion before and after those breakout rooms where everyone gets to work together collaboratively. We do not record the breakout rooms, but the summary from those breakout rooms will come out so that we can share that. I also like to find out if there's an aha moment, you know, like it's like, well, did not know that something might come up. I like that shared. Usually in week 1, we don't do that, but in week 2, we'll go a little deeper. We'll have a look at the psychological safety, and we're going to talk more about how do you unpack your day and look after yourself, so that you make sure that you are safe. And some of that responsibility, of course, definitely sits with us. So stay tuned. There's the second recording. Both of these are yours to keep. They will come to you converted as a YouTube. So I hope you enjoy our part 2, which is going to be the peers discussing this in class.